Okay, so let's go ahead and do a couple of examples using confidence interval estimates for means. So here's our formula: x bar plus t star n minus 1 s sub x divided by square root of n. This is going to be our magic formula for the confidence intervals for means. So we're going to be using our calculator, and we're also going to be using our t-table. So we're going to have that handy in a little bit. So let's go ahead and do a couple problems. Let me scroll down. And here's going to be our first example. So suppose that we are interested in finding the true mean wedding costs. So we randomly select 20 weddings and find that the mean cost was 26,000 with a sample standard deviation of 8,100. So find an 80% confidence interval estimate for the true mean wedding cost and interpret it. Okay, so we are maybe wanting to figure out what is the average wedding costs for all weddings. We don't know what they are, so we selected 20 of them, and we want to take a guess using this 20 weddings. So now let's first start off by writing down our formula. So our formula is going to be x bar plus or minus t star n minus 1 s sub x over square root of n. Okay, so this is basically our formula. So the one thing that you want to be able to do is let's try to identify everything that we have. So we want to find the true mean wedding cost. Usually all of the information, you just have to look for it. So we randomly select 20 weddings. Okay, so when we're selecting 20 weddings, that's basically our n value. So here n is equal to 20. Okay, we want to find, and we find that the mean cost, okay, the mean must be this x bar. That's 26,000. So x bar is equal to 26,000. And then we finally have sample standard deviation of 8,100. That must be our s sub x. That's going to be 8,100. Now, the only thing that's missing is to figure out what this t star is. Okay, this n minus 1 thing. So we just figured out how to do that in the previous video. So all we have to do first is find our degrees of freedom. And in this case is equal to 20. So I'm going to take 20 minus 1, which gives me 19. Okay. Notice that we're doing an 80% confidence interval estimate. So let's go ahead and look at our t-table. So in our t-table, we have 19. So 19 is right here. And we're looking for an 80% confidence interval estimate. So we're going to look at that. So if we kind of link everything up, you can see that my number is going to be 1.328. So it's going to be 1.328. That's going to be my t star. Okay, so we now have all of the information that we need to be able to plug it into the formula. So all we got to do is we got to do first one with minus and one with plus. So we're going to do x bar minus t star n minus 1 s sub x over square root of n. And we're also going to do x bar plus t star n minus 1 s sub x over square root of n. So we're going to do both. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to plug everything in there. So we know x bar is 26,000 minus t star, that's going to be 1.328, times s sub x, in this case is 8,100. And then we're going to divide this by the square root of n, which is square root of 20. And we're going to do the same thing for the other one, 26,000 plus 1.328. Multiply this by 8,100. And also divide it by square root of 20. Okay, so let's go ahead and use our calculator to calculate all of that. 26,000 minus 1.328. Multiply this by 8,100, and then divide it by the square root of 20. And what I end up getting for the lower bound is 23,594. with around 70 cents, okay? And then the other one, I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to change the minus to a plus. I'm going to get 28,405 with about 30 cents. Okay? So basically, my interval is going to be 23,594 with 70 cents. And 28,405 with 30 cents. So this is my confidence interval estimate. So what does this mean? What this means is the following. It just says that we are, what percentage? We are 80% confident that the true mean wedding cost lies between $23,594.70 and $28,405.30. So basically, this is going to be a really good 80% confidence interval to kind of give you an idea of where exactly the true mean wedding cost is. So if you're planning on getting married, this is how much money you can expect to spend, okay, on average between these two numbers. Okay, so let's do one more problem. Okay, so this one was very mechanical. Everything was given to you. Notice that the mean was given to you. The standard deviation was given to you as well. Okay, everything was basically given to you. But sometimes they might just give you the data and you have to figure out everything else. So like this problem. So a football coach randomly selected 9 of his football players to run a mile. The following data is the times and minutes it took them to run the mile. So here are all the data. So he actually just gave you the data. He didn't tell you what the mean was. He didn't tell you what the standard deviation was. He just gave you the data. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's nine of them. Okay. So what we want to do is use this data to find a 90% confidence interval estimate for the true mean time for his entire team. So maybe he couldn't get his entire team. So we kind of randomly selected 9 of them and to kind of see where everyone is at. Okay. So the thing about this is that we do not know what x bar is. I don't know what this is. I don't know what s sub x is. I also don't know what t star is. But I do know what n is. N in this case is just equal to 9. So this is just equal to 9. I can also figure out what t star n minus 1 is, because I know that the degrees of freedom is going to be 9 minus 1, which in this case is 8. So we want a 90% confidence interval. So we're going to go with 90%. So here is 90%. And we're going to go all the way up to 8. So here is 8. And if you look at 90% with 8, it's going to be this one, 1.860. So t star n minus 1 is 1. I forgot what it was. 1.860. Okay, so we can figure that one out. The only thing that we don't know is x bar and s sub x. So how are we going to find that? Well, actually, if we have the data, we know how to find the mean and the standard deviation. So all we got to do is enter the data in the calculator. Okay, we know how to do that. So let's go to our data and let's press data and enter all of your numbers. Okay, so go to your data on your calculator, press data and enter your numbers. 10, 9, 8, 8.1, 9.3, 6, 7, 7.5, and 9. Okay, so I entered all of my data. Now when I've entered all my data, I'm going to press second data, go down to 1 bar stats. We're going to not click anything. We're going to go all the way down to calculate. And it tells us what x bar is. So x bar, our mean, is going to be about 8.21. This is on number 2 in the calculator. And if you go down to number 3, s sub x is equal to 1.25. So it physically does it. So here you actually have to go ahead and plug everything into the calculator to be able to figure it out. So enter all of this data in your calculator and you'll get x bar and s sub x. And now all we got to do is just plug it into the formula. So we have x bar minus t star n minus 1 s sub x over square root of n. So x bar in this case is 8.21 minus t star is going to be 1.86 times s sub x, which in this case is 1.25, divided by the square root of n, which in this case is the square root of 9. And then we're going to do the same thing, but now with a plus. So x bar plus t star n minus 1 S sub x over square root of n. This is going to give me 8.21 plus 1.86 times 1.25 divided by square root of 9. Okay, so all we got to do is just put this in our calculator. So I'm going to have 8.21 minus 1.86 times, whoops, I did something wrong. So 1.86 times 1.25 divided by the square root of 9. What I ended up getting on the top was 7.435. And on the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm just going to add a plus. And then I end up getting 8.985. So my confidence interval is going to be between 7.435 and 8.985. Okay? So this is the confidence interval for the average mile. Okay? So basically, even though it didn't tell us to interpret it, this basically means that we are 90% confident that the true mean of all of his football players is going to be somewhere between 7.435 minutes and 8.985 minutes. Okay?